cancer battle while he cheated. My life imploded. The doctor's words hung in the air, thick and heavy like the humid summer air outside. Invasive ductal carcinoma. Breast cancer. I was 37. Mark squeezed my hand so tight I thought my bones might crack. He looked like he might faint. "We'll fight this, right? We'll fight this together," he choked out, his eyes wet. I nodded, numb. Together. The next few weeks were a blur of appointments, scans, and consultations. Dr. Sald Lewis, my oncologist, was kind and thorough, explaining the treatment plan in detail. Chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. It felt like a war plan, and my body was the battlefield. Mark was incredible. He came to every appointment, held my hand during every scan, and researched everything he could about breast cancer. He even started cooking organic meals and making green smoothies, claiming they were cancer-fighting. Lisa, my best friend since kindergarten, was a rock too. She'd bring over funny movies, let me cry on her shoulder, and even shaved her head when my hair started falling out from chemo. I felt loved, supported, and determined to beat this thing. Chemo hit me hard. The nausea was relentless, the fatigue crushing. I spent most days huddled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, feeling like a shell of my former self. Mark would work from home when he could, bringing me ginger ale and crackers, rubbing my back when I was sick. He was my rock. Then, things started to shift, subtly at first. Mark started working late more often. "Important project," he'd say, kissing me quickly on the forehead before rushing out the door. He was always on his phone, whispering in the hallway, turning away when I entered the room. One night, I woke up in a cold sweat, the chemo-induced nightmares still clinging to me. Mark wasn't in bed. I went downstairs and found him on the patio, talking on his phone, his voice low and urgent. "I can't tonight, Emily," he said, then paused. "I know, I miss you too. Soon. I promise." Emily? Who the hell was Emily? My heart hammered in my chest. The fear of cancer was momentarily overshadowed by a cold, sickening dread. I crept back to bed, my mind racing. The next day, I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a work thing. Maybe I was just being paranoid, my emotions heightened by the chemo and the stress. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to grow. I started paying closer attention to Mark. I noticed the way he avoided my eyes, the way he flinched when I touched him. I started checking his phone when he was in the shower, a desperate attempt to confirm my suspicions. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. One night, I found a text message. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Wear that dress I love." It was from Emily. My world tilted. The air seemed to thin, making it hard to breathe. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, stronger than anything chemo had ever inflicted. I showed the text to Lisa. She was furious. That bastard, I knew something was off. "I don't know what to do," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I'm fighting for my life, and he's doing this?" Lisa held me tight. "We'll figure it out. But first, you need to confront him." Confronting Mark was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I waited for him to come home from work, my hands shaking, the text message clutched in my fist. He walked in, his usual cheerful smile faltering when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" I held out the phone. He paled, his eyes widening in panic. "Who is Emily?" I asked, my voice trembling. He stammered, trying to deny it, but the guilt was written all over his face. Finally, he broke down. "It just happened," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I was stressed, overwhelmed. You were so sick, and I needed an escape. An escape? I was fighting for my life, and he needed an escape. The rage that surged through me was unlike anything I'd ever felt. "Get out," I said, my voice cold and hard. "Get out of my house." He begged me to forgive him, promising it would never happen again. But the damage was done. The trust was broken, shattered into a million pieces. I threw him out. The next few weeks were a nightmare. I was dealing with the aftermath of surgery, the lingering effects of chemo, and the crushing pain of betrayal. Lisa and David, my brother who flew in from out of state, took turns staying with me, making sure I ate, went to my appointments, and didn't do anything drastic. I hired a lawyer and started the divorce process. Mark tried to call, to apologize, to explain. I refused to speak to him. Therapy helped. It gave me a safe space to process my anger, my grief, and my feelings of self-blame. It took a long time, but I slowly started to realize that Mark's infidelity wasn't my fault. It was his choice, his failing. I focused on my health, my recovery. I went to my radiation treatments, ate healthy foods, and started exercising again. I reconnected with old friends, took up painting, and spent time in nature. Slowly, I started to heal, both physically and emotionally. One day, I got a call from Dr. Lewis. "The scans are clear, Sarah. You're in remission." I burst into tears. Relief washed over me, so profound it was almost overwhelming. I had beaten cancer. I had survived. The divorce was finalized a few months later. Mark didn't contest it. He looked gaunt and defeated when I saw him in court. I felt a pang of pity, but it quickly faded. He had made his choices, and he had to live with the consequences. I moved on. I kept the house, the place where Mark and I had built our life together. It was filled with memories, both good and bad, but it was also a symbol of my resilience, my strength. I wasn't the same person I was before the cancer diagnosis, before the betrayal. I was stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to live my life on my own terms. I learned that Emily was a young intern at Mark's company. He had ended things with her after I kicked him out, but the damage was already done. Their affair was a whisper around his workplace, a shadow on his reputation. I never spoke to Emily directly, but I did see her once, from a distance, at a coffee shop. She looked young, lost, and slightly ashamed. I felt a strange mix of pity and anger. Life wasn't perfect. There were still days when I felt the sting of betrayal, the fear of recurrence. But I had learned to cope, to find joy in the small things, to appreciate the love and support of my friends and family. I knew I would never fully trust again, but I was open to the possibility of love in the future. I was still young, still vibrant, still full of life. And I had survived. I had fought for my life, and I had won. The scars remained, a reminder of the pain I had endured, but they were also a symbol of my strength. I was a survivor, in every sense of the word, and I was finally free.